We're going to be explaining the sketching tool and sketching system within NX in this video. To start, I'm going to define a sketch based off of the default coordinate system that we have here. To do that, I'm going to click on the sketch tool, and then it's going to give me a prompt to select a plane to define my sketch off of. I'm going to select the XY plane here on this default coordinate system. And once you click on it, it will highlight it to orange to confirm that that's what you selected the plane to be. I'm going to click OK to that, and it will automatically move me into a view that is perpendicular to that plane, which will make it a lot easier to define all of my sketching off of. If you ever get moved away from that view angle, you can revert back to it by right-clicking and then moving up to this Orient View to Sketch. You can also use that shortcut there if you wanted to. Once you click that, it will automatically move you back to view perpendicular to what you're sketching. And I'll go through all the tools that are commonly used, starting with the rectangle tool. Once you click on that, you can define a rectangle by clicking twice. The first click will define the upper left-hand corner of the rectangle, and then you can drag out, or not drag, but move around your mouse to define the bottom right of the rectangle. And once you click, it will place down that rectangle there for you. There's a few other ways to define that rectangle. You can do it by 3 points using 3 of the vertices. And in this case, you can actually move around the side to make it not perpendicular, or to make it at an angle, I suppose. You can play around with that a bit. And then the third method is based off of the center of the rectangle. You can use 3 points there to define your rectangle. The second tool I'll talk about is the circle tool. This is pretty simple as well. For one method, you define the circle via the center of the circle and then a point on the circumference of it, like so. And then for the second method, you define 3 points on the circumference, and that'll define your circle. You can see you can kind of move it around a little bit to change the shape of, or the size and position of your circle. Okay. The most common tool, the most basic, I'd say, is the line tool. In this case, you just start with the start point of your line, and then you can move it around to define the end point of the line. And that'll create your line there. Yeah, pretty basic. There's only one method to define a line. More interestingly is the arch tool. It is used to create, semicircles. To do so, you can click 3 times to define the 3 points along the circumference of the arch, and that'll make your arch there. You can also make the arch based off of the center of the arch, and you sweep along the circumference. Both are ways to do it. Spline is a little bit more complicated than the ones we just discussed. In this case, you are creating a list of points. Ooh, that was a bit weird. You can create I'm going to exit out of that. You can create a list of points, and automatically a line will be, or a curve will be created through them, like so. You can change the degree of this curve to change the shape of it a bit. And if you go down to 1, you can actually see that it just has straight lines connecting them. And only when you increase the degree of the equation defining the points through these lines, you get curvature. Defaults to 3. You can also choose to have your spline be closed by hitting this checkbox, and what that'll do is it'll complete this last line connecting your last point to the first and create a closed loop. You can actually also move around the points you define by simply clicking on and dragging them around. Splines are a little bit hard to constrain though, which is something we'll talk about in a few seconds. The last tool I'll go over is polygons. They're pretty helpful to speed up modeling processes, and you can simply click down to define the center point of your polygon, and then you can change the number of sides you want. Let's say we want to make a pentagon. We can go down to 5 here. We can change the angle it's at. We can also actually change whether we want to define the size of the polygon based off of a vertice or the midpoint of one of its sides. To do that, you can go to size here and change it from circumscribed radius to inscribed radius. You can see we're now defining the size of the pentagon based off of the midpoint of one of the sides. You can also change it to side length, which you can change the side length of if you wanted to. I'm going to place that down there. You can also notice that for all the stuff I just did, you can still move it around relative to this coordinate system by just clicking on and dragging whatever you drew out. We don't necessarily want that in what we're modeling because it allows a lot of freedom for mistakes and weird stuff to propagate on. We want the things we sketch and model to be locked in place and locked in dimension, because right now I can still change the shape, change the dimensions of what I sketched as well, which is not something we want for a precise rocket. We don't want to be able to retroactively and perhaps mistakenly change the dimensions of critical parts. So how do we define and constrain the shape and position of what we model and sketch out? Well, we can do that through assigning dimensions to what we're sketching and also assigning geometric constraints to them as well. So let's start off with an example. I'm going to draw out a closed profile, and we can assign some dimensions and constraints to it. Let's make it a collection of straight lines, one of them at an angle that isn't 90 degrees, and then let's say we want a arch as well. Oh, wrong tool for what I was expecting. Oh, okay. You can see I was in the center defined arch instead of like the endpoint defined one. And let's say that we have a final line that goes up like so. Eventually, I want to bring this endpoint of the arch to meet this point, and then I want to make this line perpendicular to this base, and then in general, clean it up a little bit and assign dimensions to it. So let's get started. First, let me define the dimensions for this base here, this baseline. If you are in the same setting I'm in, with continuous auto dimensioning turned on, you'll see that these grayed out dimensions automatically appear once you define some kind, or once you make some kind of line or curve. These can be adjusted by double clicking on them and changing their value to whatever you plan on assigning the dimension of. So in this case, I'll change it to be 5. You can see it shifted to the right a little bit, and it changed the length to meet the 5 inches I assigned. You can actually also turn off the auto dimensioning, although you have to do that for the next sketch you make. You can't change it while you're within a sketch, and it won't automatically get rid of the auto dimensioning after you make that preference change. So I won't do it in this case. Then let's make this side length actually equal to this 5 inches down here. You can go in and either go to rapid dimensioning and click on the side length and then type in 5. You can do that, or you can take advantage of this side length being 5 and wanting these two side lengths to be equal to assign a constraint. To bring up the constraint menu, click on that tool and you'll be greeted by this prompt window. Since I want these two side lengths to be equal to each other and both share the dimension of 5 inches, I can click on this equal length. Notably, not the equal radius. That's only for curved or circular shapes. We want to click on the equal length option here. And then I'm going to just simply click on both of the lines, and you can see that it automatically brings your unconstrained, undimensioned line to be the same length as the one you set it equal to. And now I can no longer change the length of that by dragging it around. Okay, cool. Let's say we want this line to be at some angle to this vertical line here. We can do that again with a dimension. So I'm going to click on rapid dimension, although you can also click on the angle dimension here. But in this case, rapid dimension will automatically know that I'm trying to set an angle and not a length. In this case, I'm going to select on both of the lines, and then you can see it automatically creates a angle dimension. I'm going to set it down, and let's say we want it to be at 135 degrees. It'll automatically update and then change to be so. I'm also going to change this length to be 3 inches, which is perfect. And then we have to account for closing out this profile by bringing this endpoint of the arch to meet the endpoint of the line there. You can see if you move stuff around a little bit too much, it becomes a bit unwieldy like that. There are a few ways to bring these 2 points together to be at the same point. One of them is by dragging it and dragging it over until you highlight the endpoint of the line and then releasing. And then when you move things around, they stick together. That's one way to do it. And what it's doing is constraining these 2 points to be coincident to each other. There's another way you can do it via the geometric constraints tool. You can simply select the coincident constraint and then it will ask you to select 2 objects to constrain to each other. In this case, we want 2 of the points to be constrained to be coincident to each other. So I'll click this endpoint I'll click on this endpoint of the arch, and then I'll click on the endpoint of the line. There's a bit of a tool that I just X'd out of actually that'll make this a bit easier. Let's say you're in a bit of a crowded area with a lot of selectable geometry that could be constrained, and you are having trouble selecting the exact thing you want to constrain to. There's a tool that if you just simply scroll over, or not scroll over, if you hover over the rough area you want to constrain to, the rough either point or line you want to constrain to, and let your cursor stay there for a second without clicking, you'll see 3 lines pop up under your cursor, which are there right now. And then once you click, it will bring up a list of selectable points that you can use to constrain to. So in this case, I have a start point, an end point, and then a midpoint all along this line here. And you can see what you're going to be constraining to by hovering over that option, and you can see which one is getting highlighted. In this case, I'm over the midpoint, and in the midpoint of the line, you can see there's a orange-red highlight thing. But in this case, I want to use the endpoint, so I'll click on that, and you can see it's highlighted on the end. And once I do, it'll create that constraint such that the arch end is at the same point as the line end. And I can also move this around, and it won't decouple from each other. And then one of the other constraints I had in mind for this was making this line be perpendicular to the base here. Again, I can use the constraints tool and choose perpendicular to do so. I'll just click on this angled line and then the horizontal baseline, and it'll automatically make that constrained. Okay, one last thing I want to do is make this arch tangent to this angled line here. I'll just use the constraints tool again, use the tangent tool, and click on this straight line, click on this curved line, and you can see it automatically constrains to be tangent. And in this case, I can still change one dimension, and the reason why I know I can change one dimension is down here on this little black bar. I think it'll probably be a little light gray bar in your case if you don't have dark mode turned on. You'll see that sketch is fully constrained with one auto dimension. In previous cases, if you scroll back in the video, you can see this this one be a larger number, I guess. And as I was adding in constraints, it was being reduced, and now it's only at 1, which means I can only drag one thing around to change the shape of the profile I defined. But again, we don't want to be able to drag around anything. We want our sketches to be fully constrained. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in one final constraint, which will be a tangent constraint between this vertical line and this arch, and that'll constrain our sketch here. You get this little message, sketch is fully constrained. That's good. That's what we're after. So now I can't drag around anything, and we have all of our dimensions set. In this case, I can click finish, and then we're exiting out of the sketching tool, and I can go to extrude and bring out this curve, or bring out this curved profile into 3 dimensions. It's taking a bit to load though. Oh, there it is. Okay, so if you click on your sketch, you can then extrude it outwards into 3 dimensions like that. And if you click OK, you're left with your new 3-dimensional geometry.